National Electrical Code Article 334 regarding Romex wiring does not specifically address floodwater damage. However, Article 334.12 requires that raceways and cables be installed in a manner that protects them from physical damage. Floodwater damage could be considered physical damage. The National Electrical Code Digest Fall 2003 edition Natural Disaster Issue recommends replacing Romex wiring that has been submerged in flood water. This recommendation is based on the potential for contaminated water to compromise the insulation and create a safety hazard. The International Building Code, Section 110.3, requires buildings to be designed and constructed to resist the effects of natural disasters, including flooding. International Building Code Section 301.1 requires electrical equipment to be installed in a manner that protects it from damage and deterioration. Floodwater damage could be considered damage or deterioration that requires repair or replacement. Furthermore, the National Fire Protection Association has published guidelines for electrical equipment exposed to floodwater, which recommend replacing wiring that has been submerged. The Electrical Safety Foundation International also recommends replacing wiring that has been submerged in floodwater. While there is no specific code requirement to replace Romex wiring that has been submerged in floodwater, the available evidence suggests that it is the recommended course of action. The National Electrical Code Digest, International Building Code, National Fire Protection Association, and Electrical Safety Foundation International all recommend replacing submerged wiring for safety reasons. To support a position, consider presenting the following evidence. Firstly, the National Electrical Code Digest Fall 2003 edition Natural Disaster Issue. Secondly, International Building Code Sections 110.3 and 301.1. Thirdly, National Fire Protection Association and Electrical Safety Foundation International Guidelines on Electrical Equipment Exposed to Floodwater. Fourthly, provide photographs or other documentation of the submerged wiring. Fifthly, include a statement from a qualified electrician confirming the need for replacement. It's important to understand the potential risks associated with Romex wiring that has been submerged in floodwater. Contaminated floodwater can introduce impurities and corrosive elements into the insulation of the Romex cable. This contamination can lead to a breakdown of the insulation material over time, increasing the risk of electrical shorts, ground faults, and potential fire hazards. Even if the wiring appears to function normally immediately after the flood, the long-term effects of water damage can compromise its integrity. Moreover, the presence of moisture within the cable can promote the growth of mold and mildew, further deteriorating the insulation and creating an unhealthy environment. From an electrical safety perspective, replacing the submerged Romex wiring is a proactive measure to mitigate these risks and ensure the safety of the building's occupants. Although the local electrical inspector may not explicitly require replacement based on the 1999 National Electrical Code, it is important to consider the intent and overall principles of electrical safety. The National Electrical Code aims to provide practical safeguarding of persons and property from hazards arising from the use of electricity. In situations where floodwater has compromised the integrity of the wiring, it is prudent to err on the side of caution and follow the recommendations of recognized organizations like the National Fire Protection Association and the Electrical Safety Foundation International. When communicating with the insurance adjuster, emphasize the potential safety hazards associated with submerged Romex wiring and the long-term risks of not replacing it. Cite the National Electrical Code Digest Fall 2003 edition Natural Disaster Issue, which specifically addresses floodwater issues and recommends replacing the wiring. Additionally, refer to the International Building Code sections that require buildings to be designed and constructed to resist the effects of natural disasters and that electrical equipment be installed in a manner that protects it from damage and deterioration. Furthermore, gather supporting documentation such as photographs of the submerged wiring and a statement from a qualified electrician to strengthen the case for replacement. A qualified electrician can assess the condition of the wiring, identify any signs of damage or deterioration, and provide a professional opinion on the need for replacement. When dealing with code officials or inspectors who are hesitant to take a stand on the issue, it may be helpful to engage in a collaborative discussion. Explain the potential safety hazards and the recommendations from reputable organizations. Provide them with copies of the National Electrical Code Digest and the relevant international building code sections. Emphasize that the decision to replace the wiring is not solely based on a specific code requirement, but also on a comprehensive assessment of the risks and the application of sound engineering judgment. Consider the possibility of obtaining a second opinion from another qualified electrical inspector or code official. A different perspective may provide additional support for the recommendation to replace the submerged Romex wiring. If the insurance adjuster remains resistant to the claim, explore the option of filing an appeal or seeking assistance from a consumer protection agency. It is important to document all communications with the insurance company and the code officials to create a clear record of the events and decisions. Remember that the primary goal is to ensure the safety of the building and its occupants. Replacing the submerged Romex wiring is a responsible and prudent measure to mitigate the potential risks associated with floodwater damage and to maintain the integrity of the electrical system. Consider also that the type of floodwater plays a significant role in the extent of damage. For example, saltwater intrusion from coastal flooding is highly corrosive and can accelerate the deterioration of electrical components. Similarly, floodwater contaminated with sewage or chemicals poses additional risks to the wiring insulation and overall safety. In such cases, it is even more critical to prioritize the replacement of submerged Romex wiring. Furthermore, the age of the wiring can also be a factor in determining the extent of damage. Older Romex wiring may have insulation that is more susceptible to water damage compared to newer, more robust cables. Therefore, a thorough assessment of the wiring's condition is essential to make an informed decision about replacement. When assessing the damage, pay close attention to any signs of corrosion, discoloration, or physical damage to the wiring insulation. Look for any evidence of water stains or residue on the outlet boxes or other electrical components. If there are any doubts about the integrity of the wiring, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician who can perform a comprehensive inspection and provide expert recommendations. In addition to replacing the submerged Romex wiring, it is also important to address any other electrical components that may have been affected by the floodwater. This includes outlets, switches, circuit breakers, and electrical panels. These components should be thoroughly inspected and cleaned or replaced as necessary to ensure the safe and reliable operation of the electrical system. Finally, consider implementing flood mitigation measures to prevent future damage to the electrical system. This may include elevating electrical equipment above the floodplain, installing flood barriers, or improving drainage systems. Taking proactive steps to protect the electrical system from future flooding can help minimize the risk of damage and ensure the safety of the building and its occupants. It is crucial to remember that electrical safety should always be the top priority. When dealing with floodwater damage, it is essential to exercise caution and follow the recommendations of qualified professionals. Replacing submerged Romex wiring is a prudent and responsible measure to mitigate the potential risks associated with floodwater damage and to maintain the integrity of the electrical system. So, when faced with this situation, remember to document everything, gather supporting evidence, and consult with experts to make informed decisions that prioritize safety. Consider hiring an independent electrical engineer to provide a professional assessment and a written report. This report can serve as strong evidence to support the claim with the insurance adjuster and can also be presented to the local code official. An electrical engineer can conduct a thorough inspection of the submerged Romex wire and perform insulation resistance tests, and assess the overall condition of the electrical system. The report will provide a detailed analysis of the damage, the potential safety hazards, and the recommended course of action. When communicating with the insurance adjuster, emphasize the importance of adhering to industry best practices and safety standards. Explain that the recommendations of the National Electrical Code Digest, the National Fire Protection Association, and the Electrical Safety Foundation International are based on extensive research and experience and are designed to protect people and property from electrical hazards. Point out that failing to replace the submerged Romex wiring could expose the building occupants to unnecessary risks and could potentially lead to future electrical problems and safety incidents. It is also important to be aware of any local ordinances or regulations that may apply to flood damage to electrical systems. Some jurisdictions may have specific requirements for the inspection, repair, or replacement of electrical wiring that has been submerged in floodwater. Check with the local building department or code enforcement agency to determine if there are any such requirements in the area. If the insurance adjuster continues to deny the claim, consider seeking legal counsel from an attorney who specializes in insurance claims. An attorney can review the insurance policy, assess the merits of the claim, and advise on the best course of action. They can also negotiate with the insurance company on their behalf and, if necessary, file a lawsuit to recover the damages. Remember that the burden of proof lies with the policyholder to demonstrate that the damage is covered under the insurance policy. Therefore, it is essential to gather as much evidence as possible to support the claim and to present a clear and compelling case to the insurance adjuster. Keep detailed records of all expenses related to the flood damage, including the cost of electrical inspections, repairs, and replacements. These records will be necessary to substantiate the claim and to recover the full amount of the damages. Furthermore, consider obtaining multiple bids from qualified electricians to ensure that the cost of the repairs is reasonable and competitive. Presenting multiple bids to the insurance adjuster can help to justify the amount of the claim and to demonstrate that the repairs are being done in a cost-effective manner. In some cases, the insurance company may offer a settlement that is less than the full amount of the damages. If this happens, carefully review the settlement offer and assess whether it is sufficient to cover the cost of the repairs. If the settlement offer is not adequate, be prepared to negotiate with the insurance company to reach a fair and reasonable agreement. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure that the building's electrical system is restored to a safe and reliable condition and that the insurance claim is resolved in a satisfactory manner. By following these steps and seeking the advice of qualified professionals, it is possible to navigate the challenges of flood-damaged Romex wiring and to protect the safety and well-being of the building and its occupants. Remember that electrical safety is paramount, and it is always better to err on the side of caution when dealing with floodwater damage. Replacing submerged Romex wiring is a prudent and responsible measure to mitigate the potential risks and to maintain the integrity of the electrical system.